Welcome back to another episode of the Up Watching Hawaii podcast. I'm your host, Ski Mask Murphy. Just got off the Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, the app with the bird or with the X that is currently owned by Elon Musk. On that app in their talk space for RCFB, that's the subreddit for college football. Very big one talking on there. You could hear some of the things I discussed on there, just different topics. I definitely went through Matt Sluka because, yeah, that basically broke an hour after we got off the call last week. So, but this time, one of the things I did bring up, which is still breaking and is going to be ongoing over the course of probably, I would say, at maximum, maybe the next 4 to 5 seasons until they're forced to figure it out. But it's part of I would call the topic altogether. I would say the whole topic would be the consolidation of power within college football. And that people really are, to an extent, we treat college football as a separate, and it it's still part of the rest of the sports in NCAA and part of colleges, but football has always sort of been treated as a separate entity just because the amount of manpower it takes for that sport versus almost every other sport. Because rugby is, I think rugby teams max out around, even when you're playing 15 on 15, I think those teams typically max out around 25, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look that up. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah. But basically football, you even in high schools, they basically tell you the minimum roster size you need to have is around 45 if you want to have a sustainable team over the course of a season. So in terms of sports, just the amount of manpower for football that you need, because especially college, you're averaging around, well, Division 1, you're allowed 85 guys on the team, 85 scholarships. So yeah, it's a lot of guys. So right now, with all the craziness and consolidation, everybody in the money race, but they're mad at the students about it. All these programs in for the money race. So today, officially, talks between the Mountain West and Tennessee State broke down of them trying to pluck them out of the Sun Belt. That didn't work out. Then you have Sacramento State making some very good pleas to join the Pac-12, but Pac-12 is not biting currently. And right now, both the Mountain West Conference and the Pac-12 are sitting at just below the minimum teams in football they need to maintain the conference. Just one team, both of them need one. Which today, even though it was talked about last week, they were in talks. And shout out Nicole Auerbach for standing firm because good grief, some people don't want to practice good journalism, but they got mad at her for not saying last week, oh, Gonzaga's joining the Pac-12 when it's like, no, at that point in time, nothing officially was signed saying they were going to the Pac-12. Now they're going to the Pac-12. So you have that going on as well, too. Then you have, I forgot who else got added to the Pac-12. There's so much moving around. They're trying to pluck team Pac-12 and Mountain West are looking at plucking teams from the American. Mountain West is officially trying to talk to NIU and Toledo, which we talked about it in the RCF, the Reddit college football talk on Twitter. We talked about that technically because they would be in the Mountain West and they would be with Hawaii, the namesake of this podcast, which they're in a particular situation for themselves as well. I'll get to that. But if Toledo was to be in the same conference as Hawaii, it would be a shorter and less expensive trip, like shorter in terms of time and distance, for Toledo to play a football game on the African continent than it would be to play a game at Hawaii. Yeah, that just lets you know how far they are away. But literally, for NIU and Toledo, the closest school to them in the Mountain West is Wyoming. Like, that's 2 whole states in between, damn near, for both these schools. 2 whole states. So, that's a mess. But Hawaii's in the situation where Hawaii's only in the Mountain West is a football only school. In all their other sports, they compete in the West Coast Conference. So for them, they sort of get to chill. They were talking to the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was making offers, but they said, it's not looking, money's not looking too right for us at the moment. Which leads me to believe possibly in this consolidation of power and everybody grabbing for things. I haven't even gotten to the consolidation part, but everybody grabbing at anything and everything up for grabs in college football. I think Hawaii may try to make a move and see what's really going to be offered. Once the Pac-12 gets that extra team to solidify them, then Hawaii might see, hey, what's up with it? Because Mountain West might not get that extra team needed, and the Pac-12 might secure that down, and they might be like, hey, time for the good old Rainbow Warriors to slide on through. Let's slide on through. They're in the Pacific 12. Technically, the Pac-12 isn't technically not even named. The name officially is the Pacific Athletic Conference, which is where the Pac comes from. But they just put the number on it because they're like, oh, they were the Pac-8 for the longest. It was 8 teams. Then they went to the Pac-10 because they had 10 teams. Then they called themselves the Pac-12 because they got the 12 teams. Like, good on them for unlike the Big 10, Big 12, where it's like, no, the number of their name actually represents the amount of teams we have going on. It'll be so funny if they decide to go back to the Pac-8. That would be great once they get their schools aligned. Or even the Pac-9. We need it just for the shits and giggles. The shits and giggles. Oh, also today, speaking of movement, UTEP has now been lured away from the Sun Belt. They're joining the Mountain West. That's the team that has just one below. So, yeah, it's fucking chaos out here. Everybody's pinching and grabbing for anything and everything they can get. And it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. But one piece of consolidation of all this power and all this money I wanted to talk about that I know my university is highly involved in with, once again, over the past, I think this came out Sunday, maybe? Sunday. Recording this on Tuesday night. That apparently the Big Ten and SEC decided they wanted to have talks and officially create an alliance. If you hear the word alliance, you know the last few times the word alliance has been thrown around in college football, shit didn't go right. The first big one you had was when the SEC got Texas and Oklahoma signing on. They went the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12. Wait, no. It was the Big Ten, Pac-12, Big 12 a lot. Basically, because the ACC made some moves. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, the ACC made some moves. So all of them were talking, we're going to join up, work together, yada, yada, yada. That alliance fell through because the Big 12 and Big 10 looked at the Pac-12 and said, yeah, we're going to take your schools. We're going to take your cookies. We're taking all that shit. Right? Then as Washington State and Oregon State are left, sitting there as the Pac-2, they made a scheduled alliance with the Mountain West Conference, which, like where we are now, they said, like this little schedule we got worked out. How about we make this schedule permanent, and we're going to take some of your teams. So, who knows what could happen from this Big Ten SEC alliance? If somehow, some crazy way, one of these conferences is able to steal teams from the other, it'll be fucking insane. Especially at this point now, because what are we? I have to double check myself. I'm pretty sure each conference is 12 teams deep, 18 teams deep. It's insane at this point. It's insane because it's like, at what point do you realize your conference is so big that certain teams are just never going to play each other again? Yeah. Big Ten, we're at 18 teams. SEC, I believe, is also at 18 teams. It's fucking insane, right? So I can just say, like 18 teams in one conference. Like, what is the use of that? Yeah. SEC's at 16, we're at 18. What is the use of conferences at this size? The ACC's at 17. What is the use of conferences at this size? But they're all trying to just congeal all the power together to have it all for themselves. And because for so long they kept all the power and made the rules, BCS, all of that mess, especially with leaving certain teams out who should have had BCS opportunities, smaller schools realize, like, hey, you got to make a push to try to be in one of those conferences because that's where the money's going to be at, and they're not going to play fair. So that started driving us here. So that's been a big talk. It's like, yo, what's the Big Ten SEC going to do? Well, they're pushing for the expanded 14-team playoff. Yeah, we just went from 4 to 12. Now they want to go to 14 immediately. Now, after the 2 years that his ESPN contract in. And in that, apparently the SEC and Big Ten have expanded to 14 teams. They want automatic bids for their top 4 teams in each conference. So literally, instead of it, being like now we're only top 5 conference champions, ranked conference champions guaranteed to get in. Whoever's ranked high behind those teams gets in the playoffs where, it's a feasible chance for anyone and everybody, depending on how the dice rolls to get in. They want to change that to now over half the playoff. So literally 4 teams at SEC, 4 teams at the Big Ten. That's 8 teams out of 14. Those teams don't even have to compete with the other outside teams for an at-large spot. It's just automatic bid. If I'm one of the top 4 teams in my conference, I'm automatically in. So making a conference championship game leaves no more worries about, hey, if I lose, I might not make the 12-team playoff. It's, no, I'm already here, so I know I'm in the top 4, so I might as well just take this game off. What is this conference championship game about, But that's concentration of power there on that one. Then today, once again, these motherfuckers rear their heads once again. The motherfucking group who call themselves College Sports Tomorrow. They're once again trying to do the college football goddamn fucking Super League. It's dumb, it's stupid. You know it's not going to work. Especially the part where if you're into the other football and watch European soccer, you know about the promotion relegation system. And that, hey, the best teams in the second divisions, third divisions, and going on down, if you're one of the best 4 teams in those divisions, at the end of the season, if you finish in the top 4, you move up to a higher division. And if you're the bottom 4 in your division, you move down. And the promotion relegation over there works because, unlike here in America, their professional sports teams aren't part of a system of franchises. Their sports teams are clubs. The clubs adhere literally to the rules of the government to play sports. There's little governmental rules to be a pro sports team. You gotta have these kinds of facilities. You gotta do this kind of money, yada yada yada. Which English Premier League is sort of its own thing, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But you can't. It's ran by the government, so anybody can get in, long as they abide by the rules. Unlike here, where not anyone can join the NFL. The NFL owners have to all agree you can be part of the club if you wanted to make a team from scratch. But overseas in soccer, hey, there's been multiple cases where somebody became multimillionaire, 100-millionaire, or in that range, and they decided they wanted to go back to their hometown, their small club team, make some renovations to the stadium, and start paying some players to put some things together to make their team better. And yeah, some teams are going on a run, moving up from tier 10 and in rapid succession, moving up to like tier 4, 3. So not the top tier, but getting up there in the top end, fans having more enjoy. having more joy and enjoy. That's I haven't watched it. I probably should, but that's what the show Wrexham is about, with Ryan Reynolds and his business partner taking over a lower division soccer team in England. But I'm bringing up all of that because, yeah, this college sports of tomorrow, this group who's early in the spring, they had their vision for the Super League. They come back again, and they want to call the Super League the College Student Football League, or the CSFL. Horrible name. Just too much going on there. And with this whole thing, they want to break off college football and have it be its own separate thing from the rest of college sports, which would create a whole other litany of issues. Because now it's not part of NCAA, which means now it's not part of technically any actually somewhat government regulated college sports program. Because even like if you watch Last Chance U, you watch the JUCO programs, or if you heard of the NAIA, those are the equivalent to the NCAA literally, but just for programs and schools at a much smaller level. Still has a little bit of government oversight. Still, all these state-run colleges all have to agree on things. This is trying to move outside of that. And then they're basically saying, oh, we're going to take the top 72 schools, split them off and call them the Power Conference. Power 12. The Power 12 Conference. So basically, splitting the 12 teams evenly with the conferences. Those will be the Power Conference. Then the 64 other schools will be in the secondary tier and grouped by 8 apiece. Then there will be a group of 8, which they get promoted. Are able to get promoted or relegated each season by playing games, yada, yada, yada. Except only those 8 teams can be relegated. None of the other teams of the top schools who are just going to be stuck in the top division, they get to stay forever. They have no risk, no nothing, no anything. So same thing they're doing again, except last time I think it was 70 schools. Now it's up to 72 because things are moving and changing. It's awful. It's dumb. It's really dumb. And yeah. And now I'm gonna run through, just in case you can't think through which school is gonna be in there. Trust me. I'm just gonna run through the people behind it. And also one thing I like to note. One of the lines in here in their notice said they're also going to make NIL and transfer portal rules will be the product of collective negotiations between the CSFL and an association representing the student athletes. You know what that fucking means to me? That sounds like to me, some of the coaches have talked to people and said, yeah, we don't really fuck with the transfer portal because we no longer have control. Because basically the Supreme Court put an injunction against the NCAA basically saying, hey, if participating in sports is an extracurricular activity associated with being in a school, there's nothing you can legally do with a contract to stop, just because they're an athlete, to stop them from having the same right to freely transfer to any other school the same way a normal student would be able to. Because myself, in college, I transferred between schools, not for playing sports, but just my educational program. That was the track I was on. So I was able to freely do it. Nothing, no cause, no harm. Nobody had to look into it other than making sure my grades were in a good standard where it's like, oh yeah, he's coming to this school and he's on track to actually graduate and stuff, which is now what the federal injunction on the NCAA is about. So that wording makes me feel like they want to take that away. They want to get control back over the players. And then the NIL will be part of collective bargaining negotiation. That also feels like, hey, given the shit happening with UNLV where the coach is saying pay everybody the same rate at the same position, hey, in the same way that coach is doing wage suppression, the wording sounds like wage suppression here. That, we're going to give the kids some, but we're not going to give them what they really could get. in the open market like it is in NIL now. So that's going. That's one of the dumb parts of it. And the leader of the group is Jimmy Haslam, philanthropist from the University of Tennessee, but big part, owner of the Cleveland Browns. He's the leader of the group. And I'm not going to say the names of some other people. The easiest name for me that sticks out easily, quickly, is Grant Hill. He's a board member at Duke University, college basketball player. So him being associated with getting football turned into damn near professionals at the collegiate level seems a little interesting. But I'm just going to go through some of the collegiate associations some of these people have. I'm just going to run through it in order. So let me see. I have it up right now. It's going to be part of the header for the episode. It's going to be within the photo. That's inside the photo. That is my icon for it. Y'all know what I'm saying. Y'all, if you're this far, you know what I'm saying. So here we go. One person is on the board of trustees at the University of Pennsylvania. That's UPenn, Ivy League. All right. So has a little bit of something in the bucket, but not fully in the bucket. Then Grant Hill, like I said, relationship with Duke. So you're talking ACC. Jimmy Haslam, University of Tennessee. Hey, you know what that means? SEC. Then you have, let's see what we got here. We have Mark Abbott. He's associated with Georgetown University. So, old Big East type deal, you know. Then you have Bubba Cunningham, Director of Athletics at the University of North Carolina. ACC, put it in there again. But also, he's formerly Athletic Administration at University of Notre Dame. Hey, that's that one independent who's sort of ACC as well, sort of in Big Ten as well, sort of been Big East as well. They move around and do their own thing. But also associated with the University of Tulsa and Ball State. So a couple of the small schools. Then you have Danny White, Director of Athletics at University of Tennessee. Then was Director of Athletics at Buffalo. And at UCF. Now, hey, Big 12's now involved. Looky there. And Associate Athletic Director at the University of Mississippi, aka Ole Miss, SEC, added in there again. Then you got Gordon G., President of the University of West Virginia, board member of the Big 12 Conference. Hey, past president, University of Ohio, universities. He's at Ohio State, Vanderbilt, SEC, Big Ten. He was at Brown, University of Colorado. You see how this is starting to come together? You got the Chancellor of Syracuse in here as well. You got the Dean of Washington University. You got the Dean of Washington University in St. Louis. Not the one in Seattle. Smaller situation. But then also a Vanderbilt Law School. Then you have Director of Athletics you got Texas Tech is in here. Big 12 representative. Former college football playoff committee member, Kirby Huckett. He's also associated with Ohio University, University of Miami, University of Oklahoma. So you're starting to see, like, they're going to intentionally pick within their group their homies. And I don't know what makes them think this is going to fly. Because honestly, my feeling is, if somehow they try to do this, if you're the G5 schools, or if you're a school who you feel you may be on the bubble of being left out, just tell them you're not going to fuck with them. And tell them, hey, go on, do your own thing. See how long it lasts. Because part of how we know these schools are great and that they're good is that there's a measuring stick. Right? There's a measuring stick of knowing University of Michigan and the associated schools in the Big Ten are better schools than most of the other conferences because they play the schools in other conferences. They can beat their ass. They go out there and put their ass on a regular basis. But let's say they decide to split off in this CSFL, whatever this bullshit is. side, they decided to split off. All you got to say now, the same exact threat the NCAA made to the schools of California because they were actually putting together an actual plan for NIL deals for the NCAA and threatened to tell the schools, well, you'll no longer be part of the NCAA and we won't allow any NCAA schools to schedule you as opponents. And California called their bluff and said bet, and then the NCAA panicked. Do the same thing with the CSFL. Tell them, hey, you can't play any of our schools who are getting left behind to measure yourselves up against anymore. And watch those contracts just slowly dry up. Then also, because they're not part of NCAA anymore, hey, the money that was being handed out for them to have college scholarships, kick some of that back to us. Because we're gonna go to the FCS, kick that back to us. Let us get more scholarship players on the teams. Let's make it do what it do. Because that probably can make it fold. Those businessmen ain't gonna be like, man, you know, we're trying to push profit somehow. What's another way to get profits? Oh, how about we cut back on the amount of guys we have on scholarship, make the guys pay, because that's taking out the whole collective watch. That if this happens, mark it now. Mark my words. That's what's gonna happen. Eventually, they're gonna cut back on scholarships for those kids. Be like, ooh, yeah, give me that scholarships. It sort of hurts the bottom line. Let's cut back from 85 scholarships to let's just go to 45. You're not going for 45. Like, actually, we don't need 45. We just need all the guys who would be considered starters. So we're just gonna go to 24. So offensive starters, defensive starters, and the kicker and punter. Then they'll be like, the kicker and punter. Let's just cut it down to 22. They're just gonna gradually cut it down. If this was to happen, mark my words, it's bad. These business venture types, when they get into sports that are sort of, to an extent, government functioning regulated, things go bad because of you could say English Premier League is doing great, but they're hurting. Like, they aren't as profitable as other teams are in other leagues. They spend a lot of money to make a lot of money, and those profit margins aren't exactly hitting their best. But a prime example is Bordeaux FC. After this is okay, so gonna get a little bit of a history lesson. Bordeaux FC. This is a French football club, a French soccer club, who, for an extended, very long time, were in the top division. They recently lost their spot in the top division in 2022. They got demoted. So around 2013-ish, 2014-ish, basically some business venture, VC, private equity types got involved in the club and started making decisions and stuff. Bordeaux FC, they're getting relegated. They're getting demoted. They're moving down. Well, they've been down, and they just recently filed for bankruptcy. So they're being forced to move down as well because they have no money. They were, I'm not going to say the club, but they were one of the clubs in terms of League One. That's the name of the top division of the French soccer league. So if you know French soccer, you probably know Paris Saint-Germain. Everybody probably knows them. Probably a decent amount of people know Monaco. Probably a decent amount of people know Nice. Some people probably know Reims. Some people probably know Marseille. Marseille and Paris Saint-Germain are probably the two biggest that everyone's probably very familiar with. But in terms of the amount of championships, Bordeaux is number 7 on the list. So, this is a team with history. But also, before 1992, that's when the English Premier League started and sort of shifted the power and everything within European soccer to be about England. It was about the others of what's considered the Big Five. It was more so the French League, the Spanish League, and the Italian League. The German League was still on its way up, fighting its way up, but the French league, the Spanish league, the Italian league were the big three leagues. And when I say they're big, the 70s and 80s, that's where you want it to be that. And Bordeaux has 6 championships. That makes them 7 on the list in terms of championships. 3 of those championships were won in the 80s during the heyday of that league. They got one in the 90s, then they got one in 09. So it lets you know, hey, this team was still competitive. But the league was what? 20 teams deep. You know, you want to be in the top 4 because that's how you get to go to Champions League and everything. Once private equity came in, they never finished with a Champions League mark or a Europa League. That's below the Champions League. These are tournaments you get to play big tournaments if you finish good in one season. So they got 2 Europa League visits, and then it just stopped. They just started finishing in the bottom half of the league because all this money stuff. Yeah, the money was quick, yada yada, but the thing you have to do is actually still build a good team, keep them winning. If they try to do this takeover, because it always happens with the private equity. Private equity's goal is really just to bleed the asset dry and then just leave it dead. And if they try to do this with college football, it's going to backfire so horrendously that honestly, I feel like in the end, maybe the FCS will be what survives out of all of this. Or maybe it'll go shit so far down that we'll have to rebuild itself damn near from the JUCO level, piece by piece. Because everybody trying to chase the money, just trying to, not even trying to chase the money in a way of like, hey, I'm just trying to make money. They're trying to make it so it's like, no, only I'm making money. There's no more money for anyone else. I want the whole pie. And you can't just have the whole pie. You have to share it. The only way this thing functions is if we share it. If it goes all around. And this is me speaking as a Michigan alum. Yo, you have to share it. I mean, we're one of the few conferences where literally all the proceeds from all sports is split evenly. It doesn't matter if your team's the one winning championships. The extra money you get for the NCAA for winning the championship, we split it evenly amongst everyone. That's what you got to do. We gotta spread the love. Yeah, you can be a great program, keep beating everybody else, maintain the fact that you're a great program, but don't try to be a great program by using your legal maneuvers to box everyone out. And we know the number 1 team in the NCAA is billable hours. We know that. And we know y'all gonna make sure billable hours gets their time on the field. But make sure their time on the field, you can look out for the smaller programs. Make sure programs aren't gonna disappear. Make sure everyone's around. Don't just try to take everything for yourself. Because what is that gonna do? These colleges, you're supposed to be nonprofits. Which I could go into a whole nother rant about that, about provost, vice chancellors, yada yada yada, all the list of these fluffed up executive positions at colleges that don't do nothing but it's like a racketeering scheme to just get all their friends paid. Ugh. So much I go into on that, but I've been going on this one a lot longer than I thought I would. I know y'all keep these episodes short. I'm getting the hiccups. Barber Switch is letting me know it's time to end this. I'm your host, Ski Mask Smurfy. This is Up Watching Hawaii Podcast. Man, like, subscribe, comment. Find me on Twitter at OGSmurf826. And just search OGSmurf826 anywhere on the internet. You will find me. It's always going to be me. Just OG Smurf, like the cartoons, 826. All one word together. Nothing's capitalized. Come find me. Come talk to me. Let me know what you enjoy. Let me know what you don't enjoy. I was going to say I make this content for you all. I really make it for myself. And I put it out for you all to enjoy. And I want to make sure it's still enjoyable for all of you all. So let me know, comment, be constructive. Don't just, I'm trying to build this up. You guys see how small this thing is. But you're still here and you're enjoying it. You're joining in. And I appreciate that. Just be constructive with your criticism. Not too much on me, homie. Not too much. Y'all be blessed.